Welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name is Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I help private practice owners align their business back with their soul's calling, with their big vision and with their soul's purpose. Unlike other private practice coaches, I've traveled the world in search of spiritual resources, spiritual tools, education and information so that you can have the transformation that your soul desires and needs so that you can up-level your business. How much fun is this? I love it so much. Guys, if you're not already a member of the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group, please check out the show notes. I would love for you to be there. In the meantime, thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. It is raining outside today and the birds are loving it. So you might hear some tweeting in the background. And I also have the boss. He's asleep under the table as I'm talking to you now, my little fur baby Gabe. So you might hear him get up and pitter-patter around at some point as well. But anyway, today, I want to talk with you about boundaries and how you can set boundaries in a way that really aligns with your purpose, your vision, and your values. Because here's the thing, I believe that having boundaries is a very, very spiritual act. Because when you have a really clear boundary in place around something, what that means is people know where they stand with you. And it also means that when you do say yes to something, you can give yourself fully to it. But what I know about boundaries is great, and I know it in my head, but even now, sometimes I still forget about my boundaries, as I'm sure we all do. It happens to the best of us, doesn't it? I mean, if you can recall a time in your practice where you felt perhaps you were taken advantage of, that might be an example for you there of when a boundary was broken. But I'd love to know as well, what comes up for you when you even hear the word boundaries? What do you believe about boundaries? And as you know, this is a transformational podcast. So at the end of the episode today, I'm going to give you some questions that you can work through if you're in a position now where you're feeling like your boundaries are being tested. And hopefully those questions are going to help you. If not, maybe download the episode and put it away so you've got it for later. Because at some point or another, I promise you the boundaries are going to get tested. I think some of the reasons that come up for why it's difficult to set boundaries is really around the concept of loss and fear. I can speak from my own experience with boundaries. I know in the past I've been apprehensive about putting them in place because I've thought to myself, oh, what if she doesn't like me anymore if I put a boundary in place? Or what if I lose this opportunity if I stand my ground? Or what if saying no to somebody means X, Y, and Z? But here's the thing. Everything that happens in the world is a neutral event. It's neither good nor it's bad. Things in the world only become good or bad based on the meaning that we attribute to them, right? So by using that approach and that philosophy, what that tells you is that you need to go back to the meaning that you're attributing to putting a boundary around something. And I can give you an example. So I can recall a time in the past where somebody asked me to collaborate on a project with them. And I was super excited to do this. I really love this person, and it was a joy to me to be able to help. Like, if you know me at all, you know I'm always one of the first ones to get in there, roll up her sleeves and support another woman in private practice. It lights me up and I really love doing it. But what ended up happening was this woman didn't know a whole lot about private practice, and I was supporting her, giving her lots of business advice and sort of coaching on the side and access to my tools and my processes and my templates and things like that, offering to help with all different parts of the project. And I was really, really loving it. And then what started to happen was, it's more a reflection of me, but I'm just being totally transparent with you here. I'll get to that in a minute. But what started to happen for me was I started to feel really uncomfortable with things. I started to like get a spider sense that something was a bit off. And once I get that spider sense, it's like I can't ignore it, I can't let it go. And it starts to play on my mind more and more and more. And as she continued to ask me for more and more things, instead of me being excited to support her and give her more and more things, I started to feel resentful. I started to feel like this isn't fair. I started to feel like this doesn't feel good for me anymore. I want to pull back now. If I pull back, though, is that going to affect other people? And what are the consequences of that going to be? Will she still like me? Will we still have a friendship? All of this sort of stuff came up. And so I found myself in a state of limbo for a little while, not really knowing what to do, but I was still kind of helping her out, even though I was feeling resentful. So I lost the passion, all that good feeling that comes up from helping somebody just kind of evaporated. And you know what it's like when something's in your awareness, it expands and it grows. And then it was like I'd start to see posts on her social media about what she was doing, and there was no mention of my contribution, yet we were collaborating. Or mutual friends of ours would be in touch with me and they'd tell me what an amazing job this person was doing, but again, there was no mention of me. It was like they had no idea that I had been participating and helping out. And so in my mind, what had happened with it was this collaboration suddenly felt to me like I was doing 75% of the work. And I guess not that you do it to get stuff back. It wasn't about that, but I guess just to not have the acknowledgement was upsetting, and that then required me to go and do some work around why I needed that acknowledgement. But this is the good thing about spiritual journeys, right? We're constantly learning, and when you have that awareness that when you feel like that, it's a trigger, it's a sign that something's been triggered in you. And it's an opportunity for you to, dive deeply into that shadow work and bring that stuff up to the surface so that it can be processed. So I know it's only ever a good thing. It's just nobody likes doing shadow work, do they? And so anyway, that's a time in the past that I can recall having issues with boundaries and things like that, and what happened for me. And as I work with more and more women in private practice, I've come to understand that it's a similar process for them too. And no doubt you guys listening have probably experienced, breaches of boundaries before, whether it's with clients, whether it's with team members, whether it's with, sometimes how team members or clients will want to message you after hours. And some of you, like in the beginning, you feel like, oh, I better write back. And so you do. And then what ends up happening is that other person then starts to think, oh, well, it's okay to message her. So they'll keep messaging you after hours and on the weekends because they feel like you're fine with that, but you're not. And you just haven't told them that you're not. And now you're afraid to tell them that you're not because a pattern has already been created where they are and they do, and you know what I mean? And it just kind of snowballs, right? So here's the thing. The first step really is to understand what your boundaries are. And that's a really, really tough process because a lot of the time you don't know what your boundaries are until they've been broken, until something feels off. We don't always walk around, thinking of our boundaries. But if you can, try and have a little bit of a think about what are your limits and what sort of limits do you want to put on things. Think about times in the past where a boundary has been broken. And what I want you to do is think about how were you responsible for that. So in that example from my past that I shared with you a moment ago, I guess how I was responsible in that was I guess I was just a bit naive. I guess I was just a bit too trusting. I didn't put an agreement in place. I didn't put a plan in place. I didn't formalize things. That was, so I didn't set up any expectations from the outset. And what became abundantly clear was we both had different ideas of what the word collaboration meant. And so that could have been better addressed had we had some kind of formal agreement. So you need to have a think about how you were responsible for that boundary been broken or overstepped or breached or whatever word you want to use for it. Because when you take responsibility for it, it then puts you back in the driver's seat and gives you that greater sense of control. And then it won't happen again because you're learning from it. And when you learn from it, you transmute the energy. Remember, universal law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Everything's always in flux, but you can transmute that negative energy of the memory of that boundary being broken by taking a lesson from it. Okay, all of a sudden then the energy goes from yucky and uncomfortable and unpleasant, you hate thinking about it, to, oh, this was actually expansive for me. I learned something. I expanded my conscious awareness around something. And I think the other thing to remember too is it's okay to recognize and honor the value of having a boundary. You know, think about how you're honoring the other person by having a clear boundary, how you're honoring yourself, how you're honoring your practice, how you're honoring your client. Because when there are clear boundaries in place, everybody knows what the rules are. Everybody's clear. When there aren't boundaries in place, people aren't clear. And so it's not okay for you to then get upset with people. You can only get upset with people if they have been aware of what the boundary was and then they've overstepped it. So use this time as an opportunity to really reflect on experiences you've had in the past where where a boundary was overstepped. So this is the homework. I'll give you the journal prompts now. They're transformational questions again. So grab a pen and paper. Here we go. The first one is recall a time you said yes instead of no. It's the first one. Recall a time where you said yes instead of no. The second one is to recall a time when a boundary was broken and, you know, what happened. So write that out. The third one is, how were you responsible for that boundary being broken? How were you responsible for that boundary being broken? The fourth one is, what did you realize as a result of that experience? Okay, so that's your opportunity for growth there, right? This is the learning, this is the teaching moment, the learning moment. And then the next one is, what do you believe about setting boundaries? Now, some common beliefs, as I mentioned before, is that it's going to result in a loss. Something bad's going to happen if you create a boundary. If you have an unhelpful belief or a limiting belief around what it means to establish a boundary, identify what that belief is and then process it. You guys are psychologists and coaches and social workers and counselors and therapists. You know how to process this stuff. So identify what the belief is and then work through it, you know. What would need to happen in order for you to be able to release that belief? And then the last thing is, what would a more empowering belief be that you might be able to create for yourself? Okay, a more empowering belief that you might be able to create for yourself. Okay, so see how you go with those. The other thing that I just wanted to let you know before we finish up is people who are in stage 4 lockdown in Victoria, Australia. If you're listening to this podcast, I want you to know that I'm here to support you. You can come and participate, get all the help you need in the private practice mentorship group for just $1 for your first month instead of $97. So you're going to save $96. You can come in, you get coached every week, you can get coached every day if you want. There's access to 11 learning units there, all about manifesting in your private practice, limiting beliefs in your private practice, expansion in your private practice. And I don't mean expansion in terms of building your team. I mean in terms of your spiritual awakening, your conscious expansion, those sorts of things. There's tools in there for recruiting, for marketing, all those sorts of things and a whole lot more. So the link for that's in the show notes. I would love to see you in there. You can cancel it anytime. But guys, you need help now. I'm here to support you. I hope to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name was Brooklyn Storme and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast today. If you're looking for clarity, if you need help with branding, your processes, and bringing everything into alignment with your soul's purpose for your private practice, head to the show notes and click the link for more information about the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group. You are going to love it. I can't wait to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.